something that all people have access to legally. But what we don't have jurisdiction or legislation on is, or the ability to control, is whether or not we can have administrative rights. So can we order, and without a subpoena, an administrative audit that shows us who has accessed our chart, who has asked for copies of our chart, who has gone into our chart after the doctor has closed a note, what date and time, what action was taken. I think all these things should be available to the patient. I've been asking for one from all of the doctors that I've seen for a long time. The only doctor that I don't really have any question about is my primary care physician, because I know that entire team well. So I really don't care, who goes into that chart for what reason. Also, it's never been a problem. But there have been issues in numerous medical records. As you guys know, Northwestern, my favorite hospital, because I used to work there for a long time and I have brand loyalty. Someone hacked into my chart at Northwestern and changed my address from my real home address to the address 420 North County Farm Road, which is, I believe, a juvenile detention center. So that happened during the pregnancy with the twins. And then I requested a formal administrative audit at that time, and it was denied, and I still haven't received it. After the bludgeoning, so that I can try to prove to law enforcement and detectives that there was a string of ongoing victimization that was related to each other. It was most certainly related to each other, and I tried to request the audits on those records, and I was denied those as well. I also requested them from, I believe it's called, what's that hospital on Wellington? Not Good Sam. What is it called? It's in the city. It's an advocate hospital. Is it Good Sam? It might be. I don't know. But anyway, I did request that, and I was denied that as well, administrative audit of that anyway. So it's weird, right? It's like we go into these places and then these people have authorization to do things to us, especially when you talk about in a medical capacity. If you're going to be given some sort of medication or treated in some way, have some sort of imaging or some other sort of diagnostics, it would be your right to have that person's name and information. Everyone, from the person who takes your ID and your insurance card at the front desk, all the way to the back end of discharge, the person who does your x-ray, the person who draws your blood, all of that information legally we have access to, or we're supposed to, though that's our right. So it's incredibly curious, to not have access to that information when you know for a fact that it's our right to have that access. So I've been making a couple of phone calls about that today. It's frustrating because this is 5 years of repetitive, redundant, just annoying, exhausting, like garbage. You know what I mean? Ugh, it's terrible. It's like a literal cycle of, well, we know she's right. We know she's telling the truth. We know she has rights, but... And then there's no one to be like, oh, hey, let's hold these people accountable who continue to voluntarily engage in this trash, So I'm calling through to places and there's someone answering the phone who's not from those places. It's so weird. I literally just called 30 places, and I can tell you that the people who answered, they're just not really from those places. They don't have the answers that I need. They don't have the information that I need, and it's basic information that I'm asking for. Can you schedule an appointment? Like, what the hell? Why is that difficult? Like, why is that difficult? Why do you need an entire team of people to be on the same page with regards to scheduling an appointment for a telehealth? You know what I mean? It's just, you can't turn your understanding of the world off. Hold on, you guys. Or whatever, I'll check it later. You can't turn your understanding of the world off. What you know is what you know. It's always on, running in autopilot in the back of your mind. You're programmed to know what you know as being real. And what we know to be real is what we experience. So if I'm 37 years old, and in the 37 years that I've been alive, I call a doctor's office to schedule an appointment, and 9 out of 10 times it's a painless, effortless process where I give a little bit of information, and in return I receive a confirmation for a doctor's appointment. That would be the expectation after 37 years of having that be, a successful means of getting an appointment somewhere. Just like if you call to get a haircut appointment, same, very simple, right? So when you're not blind, dumb, deaf, or slow, and you have access to all of your senses, and you have experience in doing a certain thing, you can see when that certain thing is no longer being handled in the way that it typically, primarily, customarily, legally is handled. Right? Yeah, I would say so. I've been calling around for aesthetic schools, esthetician schools, cosmetology schools, because my daughter, shout out to my daughter, Bibi, she just graduated high school this year, and she will be going to further her education in some way. She hasn't really decided yet, and we're talking about it. We're talking it out and trying to figure out her best path so that she doesn't incur a tremendous amount of school debt. So I'm calling around different places, trying to get info for her. And my son had algebra in summer school today, and my other daughter is in summer camp, and Weston is chilling. 5 months old, he turned yesterday. And I'm just here like, what the fuck, What are you guys doing? Oh, we're back to harassers. Fantastic. I thought we were far past that. I thought we were like years past that. You've got to be a real lowlife in 2024 to spend your time harassing someone online. I thought that AI had weeded out all of the trolls and that we had moved past that. Did they put me in some sort of elementary course of life where I don't belong? That must be what happened. So anyways, it'd be great to be surrounded by my peers and people who love, respect, encourage, and appreciate me. Do you know how long it's been since that was my reality? Approximately 5 years. That's pretty fucked up, right? Instead, I get to be in this space where I'm surrounded by losers who have seriously something wrong with them, who cannot find a better path in life than to be harassing or harming or shit-talking or rumor starting someone who does not even know they exist. It's pretty deep right there. You have so much time and effort and ability to succeed that you choose, rather than doing so to focus on me. Sounds like you might not be as successful as you think you are. So maybe rather than being in my space, my virtual safe space, running your mouth, you should take a free class. If you look at my FTR sections, you can see that I have posted a place where you can literally learn for free. Look at that. So if you're finding yourself bored with nothing to do other than make feeble attempts at lessening someone's self-worth, especially someone who is already going through things, maybe take a free class. I am handling all of my things to the best of my ability when 5 years has gone by since I've had any closure to any of my open items. So still to this day, I cannot call the IRS and obtain information on my business licensing. That's been going on since 2019. I have been calling the IRS asking for my EIN number. Cannot get it. I spent 8 hours when I was in the Franklin Park penthouse requesting my EIN number, and they said that they could not verify my identity. How do you verify someone's identity over the phone? I spent 8 hours on hold with the IRS. 6 hours at least, but I want to say it was 8. It was a terrible day. I mean, I was just sitting there. I was trying to get other work done at the same time, but like just on the phone. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it was 6 hours. But it was definitely a long time, like the entire day. I had to plug in my phone because I went from full battery to no battery. I applied for an EIN for GoPro Solo in 2018, and I began following up on the EIN in 2019, 20, 21. I believe the last time I called was 2022, and we're in 2024 now. It just gets exhausting to make all of those like long-winded phone calls. So you want to know all of the items that I have open? You really want to know? So for the sexual assaults, I've never received any follow-up at all whatsoever from law enforcement or the state of Illinois. For the robberies, the break-in attempts and successes against me, where food, clothing, and other items have been stolen from my home in both the city of Chicago as well as Harwood Heights, I've received zero assistance or follow-up at all. The defacement of my vehicle, where my vehicle was intentionally keyed and mechanically destroyed while parked in a gated community in Barrington, Illinois, and other places. There has been zero follow-up from Lake County, DuPage County, or Cook County. And I have done more than just file a police report. I've called repeatedly. And I have all of this documented. And then for the harassment, both online as well as in person, there's been zero follow-up. So I do have a few people who I trust who have literally said to me, you're absolutely right in feeling the way you feel. You are justified in feeling that way. There's nothing, like, as any other rational adult, you know, sitting in a conversation with me, there's nothing that they could think of that they should, could, or would have done in similar circumstances, which is helpful. Great. I mean, it helps to receive that validation because if you guys are familiar with the term gaslighting, when you're being gaslit by someone into thinking that you are not doing enough or that there's something more you could have done, and you're literally like bent over backwards for years trying to accomplish something, resolution to anything, one of these numerous items, and you're sitting here in 2024 with a newborn baby who is being maliciously used, you know, and played with as a pawn, and you just can't seem to get the answers that you're looking for, it helps to receive that sort of validation. So I won't say that it is unhelpful. It's not unhelpful, it's helpful. I just don't think that it's the help that I expect it to be, you know? Every time I talk to someone new or get new access to some sort of a resource, I'm expecting that it's going to be like the solution. And the truth is, like, it's not. You know, there has been very little resolution. I have not received any closure on any of these items. And after 4 or 5 years of calling about these items, you reach a certain point in your own mental health where you say, do I continue to follow up? Or for the sake of my stability, my peace, my family's stability and peace, do I just forget that it ever happened? And when you get to that decision where you're like, I'm just going to move forward, I'm not going to call anymore, I'm not going to follow up anymore, how do you protect yourself when other parties who are interested in, it's really difficult for me to say what their motives are, but people who come in and say, well, why didn't you follow up on that? If that's the truth, that really happened to you, then you should have followed up on that. Then it's your own fault. And then you're in the position of, you have to now defend yourself, because there are, whether we like it or not, long lasting and long term impacts on the things that people say about us. It's called slander for a reason. It is punishable, by lawsuit in the United States of Illinois for a reason. But again, for some reason, I'm not able to take advantage of those civil rights for some reason. I don't know. It's beyond me. The reason is absolutely beyond me. So you follow up, you make the calls, you dedicate a specific amount of your mental space, physical time, and energy towards these topics, and you call and call and call, and you get nowhere. And then you get to a space where it's like, okay, we know all of that happened, but guess what? You're here now, and this is what we can do for you. And you think, okay, great, let's move forward. And just for, a minute or two before they're right back again saying, well, why didn't you do this? Well, why didn't you do that? And then the explanation for all of these things is so long and energy draining that you're just like a paralyzed, zombie at the end of it. Just like, whatever you say it is what it is. You get so exhausted of advocating for yourself. There are people who are unwilling to understand. It's not that they cannot. It's not that they are mentally incapable. I'm sure there are some people who are mentally incapable of understanding, but for the most part, the majority of people are not incapable of understanding. They can understand. They do have the mental capacity to understand. They choose not to understand. And they choose not to understand for a reason. Everything that happens in this lifetime is causal. There are very little coincidences, and there are very few accidents. Everything is causal to something else. If the pen hits the blanket, it hit the blanket because I dropped it. I dropped it because I opened my hand. I opened my hand because I wanted to show you a causal relationship. Every single thing that happens can be, linked back to some other causation. So if we ask ourselves, we can find out. It's just a matter of, do we want to know? And I, in my specific circumstances, I kind of have reached this crossroads where I've been, for a few years now, where it's like, I don't even want to know. I don't want to know why anymore. I just want to move forward. And that forward movement, that's hope, that's faith, that's belief, that is the desire and the ability to create a new life for yourself, a new circumstance, a new story, a new chapter. But like I said, there's still people who are reading, like, if you think of life in terms of like a trilogy, right? There are people who are asking me, like, they've already read all 3 of my books, right? And they're asking me, when is book 4 going to come out? And then there are also people who are like on page 10 of the first book of the series, and they have questions. And so it's like a constant battle of being up to date with information and informative in a way that allows me to advocate for myself and get the intended outcome of being in my own home with my children, being stable, financially prosperous, and all of these things, combined with not losing patience when people have questions, and understanding that time is linear. So when you're reading it, it's true for you at that time. When you're finding it out, you are processing the emotions of finding certain things out or learning certain things about my situation that I have already long processed, So being an empath, and I'm a very empathetic person and intuitive, and I have a very strong belief in God and in faith and all of these things, I feel, what people are feeling when they're going through the things that I've gone through, and even the painful things, like even my biggest supporters learning that I actually was sexually assaulted, and learning just one example of many, learning that I was robbed, or learning that I was extorted or coerced or, human trafficked. As they learn the information and they become affected by it, usually they cry, or they feel sad, or they feel confused, or because a lot of the people who find out, who care enough to find out, they were very, very strong believers that I was lying, and they hurt me because they thought I was lying, or they justify hurting me because they say I was lying. But then they actually do the digging and they find out that I was not, and then now they're even more hurt because now they're processing the fact that they've been an awful person to someone who was not only telling the truth, but who is a good person. And most of the people who they have positioned to do this to me are also good people. So your conscience starts to eat at you and say, well, how could you do that? And then I, as an empath, am feeling that person's regret mixed with their disbelief and shock and whatever residual emotions are left in me. It's deep, like the shit that I'm talking about, I cannot talk about with a surface thinker. I can't, no matter what age you are. My children are amazing, and they have a way of understanding things that all children, not all children, but many children have. I think that's the beauty of being a parent who tells their child versions of the truth that they can handle, rather than just, boxing the child out. And I think that that's important. I think that all children need truth that they can handle to their age and level of understanding, rather than to just be told it's not your business or everything's fine. We live in an era where you can't do that anymore. Do you guys remember hearing your mom pss, 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 with your dad in the kitchen, and your dad would be like, what? Or you'd see some sort of emotional reaction or response in maybe your aunt and your mom talking, and you'd go over there as a kid like, what happened, Mom? And they'd say, nothing, honey, nothing happened, go and play. It's none of your business. You're too young. You can't do that anymore. The shit's all over the internet. Your cousin knows. You have text message. You have cell phones. You have the internet. You have everything. It's so difficult to keep a secret in 2024, you guys. It's ridiculous. There are no secrets in 2024. There just are none. There are none. And I think that, let's talk about electronic footprints. That's why it's impossible to be a corrupt individual and not be identified as one. It might take a minute, but they find out, they definitely find out. And unless you have some sort of plausible circumstances, and that's even worse, is that the human condition is to be manipulated, is to be extorted, is to be incentivized. The human condition. We are always curious beings, looking for more, seeing what we can get away with, seeing what others get away with, seeing what makes us happy, seeing what makes us sad. It's like if you reach out and touch